alternations, especially the formation of differential argument marking properties, as seen in Chinese. And before I begin, I'd like to thank you, the organizers of the ISOCTAL Fourth International Symposium on Chinese and Theoretical and Applied Linguistics, for organizing this event, and for giving me a chance to present my work. I want to thank my mentors in Chinese linguistics, especially Professor Feng Shengli, for the inspiring work over the years, and for the many constructive comments which made this piece of work possible. I would thank members of the audiences of previous conference venues, especially NACL 25 in 2013 at the University of Michigan, the Journée at INALCO in Paris in 2018, and also there are two conferences at the BLCU at the Beijing Language and Culture University. Thank you all for your comments that incorporated into this piece of work, and all disclaimers apply. Yeah, so the two constructions to discuss today are bar and bay. The bar and bay are two seminal constructions. There is a huge amount of scholarship that has been done on these two morphemes and their constructions for summaries. Li in 2006, also Li in 1993. They should give a summary of the research background to these two constructions, and as we can imagine, the amount of research that's been done on these two constructions is massive. And the bar and bay belong to a group of morphemes called co-verbs, 通动词 or 同动词, which is a term coined by Lee and Thompson, in denoting a group of morphemes that seem to share verbal and prepositional properties. And as such, they also seem to form phrases. They form phrases where the noun comes after them. So, for example, 跟 as a verb, it originally means to follow. It tends to denote the accompaniment. So, for example, 我跟张三很处得来. We can prepose the entire phrase. 跟张三我很处得来. All right, so 跟张三 seems to form a constituent. It's one phrase, and we can prepose the entire phrase. 用 it originally means to use, and hence it denotes instrument. So for example, 他用到杀了很多鸡. We can prepose the entire phrase. 用到他杀了很多鸡. 在 it means to be at. It can also simply be translated as at. It denotes some location. So for example, 我在桌子上摆了一盘画. You can propose the entire phrase. 在桌子上我摆了一盘画. 对 it means to face, but also denotes some direction. So we can say, so 张三对李斯很客气. We can say 对李斯张三很客气. All right, so in all of these co-verbs, they have verbal and prepositional properties, and we can propose the entire phrase, which seems to indicate some constituent boundaries where the co-verb and their objects form one constituent. But bar and bay have it's a little bit different. Bar and bay they are unique in the co-verb category, in that they do not seem to form phrases, but rather they seem to be heads. This has been proposed by Li and Huang Lili in the famous work. So for example, 把这块肉你先切切吧. Okay, so that's not possible. The canonical word order is 你先把这块肉切切吧. But we cannot say 把这块肉你先切切吧. I'm proposing the entire phrase sounds odd to many people. Similarly, 张三被李斯打了. We cannot say 被李斯张三打了. No, that's just completely wrong. So bar and bay do not seem to form phrases with and with the noun that comes after them, which is a difference to all the co-verbs that are presented on the previous slide. Also, bar and bay, there's a special property of tolerating the insertion of a in their complements. So, for example, two examples in Tang, 弟弟把弟子给打碎了. All right, so we can say 弟弟把被子打碎了, but we can also use a, which is optional. 弟弟把被子给打碎了. Similarly, 被子被弟弟给打碎了. Right, so both are and they tolerate this use of a in their complements. If we put all of these morphemes together, we can use are and they and also a in one single sentence. So this example, 他被朋友把一个太太给骗走了. Okay, so we use a above are, and both of them they should dominate a. A so marks the lexical verb phrase, 把一个太太给骗走了. The cartographic arrangement seems to be something like this. There's a verb phrase where there can be an aspectual marker. The three main aspectual morphemes in Mandarin are le, zhe, and guo. Above it we have a, which denotes some kind of affectedness. Has been analyzed as an affect marker. Above that we have which can be analyzed as an active morpheme. And above that we've got they, which seems to be a passive morpheme. And the three arguments that are being introduced seem to be the affectee and the specifier of gay, the agent and the specifier of bar, and also the passive IV in the specifier of a. All right, so these are the three sort of your light verb heads that are merged above the lexical verb phrase. And the common core property of bar and they seems to be this affect marker. There is an affect light verb head that seems to be in the complement of both a and bar constructions. So, if we consider the origins of bar and they constructions, so all co-verbs in general is all co-verbs come from serial verbs. People who analyze Chinese philology, they've shown that co-verbs come from multiple verb phrases that have been reanalyzed as a single verb phrase in a process called restructuring. In the case of bar and they have, they originally, they like co-verbs. They originally have lexical semantics as verbs, and we can trace the origins of the affect from the original lexical semantics. In the case of bar, and also its etymological cognate, yang, they both mean to take and hold. And to take and hold naturally implies agency and the subject, also affectedness in the noun that comes after them. So, for example, in this famous example in the 前汉书, 我把高皇庸人赐之. 之 here is a resumptive pronoun, so 之 here refers to 高皇. And this resumptive pronoun strategy makes it possible to reanalyze this as a single verb phrase. So 我把高皇庸人 and 赐之, so stabbed the emperor with a blade. But the original lexical semantics of bar, meaning to take, so takes the emperor and stabs him with a blade. This naturally implies agency and also affectedness in the two arguments. Similarly, it originally means to receive and to undergo and to experience, and it also denotes affectedness in its subject and also agency in what comes after it. So, for example, in the 红楼梦, 老太太也被风吹病了. Okay, 老太太被风, so she experiences the effect of the wind, blowing her sick. So, a also implies affectedness and it's some subject and agency in what comes after it. So, Chinese bar and they, they seem to be semantically conditioned in these serial verb constructions. And, the lexical semantics give rise to this agency and affectedness coloring in, their argument. As in bar and they can be analyzed as voice afflictive, and they seem to merge new arguments above lexical verb phrase. I mean, Polken, she's done some seminal work on applicatives, and bar and conform to what she calls high applicatives because they are merged above the lexical verb phrase. And also, the notions of agent and affectee, these are universals in formal event structure, and they're commonly used to create transitive constructions. So, famous work by Rappaport, Holbath, and Levin, and Ramchan, etc. They talk about how there is a cause element and there is a come element that introduce the agent and affectee in canonical transitive constructions. And these are the arguments that are introduced by Ba and Bei as well in Chinese. So if we just conclude, I propose that Ba and Bei are voice applicative. And then traditionally, there's this distinction between your structure case and inherent case. And then your structure case tends to be grammatical. It denotes grammatical relations like subject and object. Inherent case tends to be more semantic and thematic, and they seem to denote semantic roles like instrument, location, source, and destination, etc. And this roughly applies to Ba and Bei and all the other co-verbs like then Yong and Tai and Dui, etc. And the other co-verbs, they seem to be theta role assigners. They assign theta roles to their objects, and as such, they form phrases. As we saw on the first slide, where we can propose the entire phrase. But they do not assign theta roles to to the noun that comes after them, and so they seem to be head rather than phrases. A famous work by Wang Huan called the 把字句 and 被字句, which summarizes the research background in Ba and Bei, as they are often analyzed together because they seem to be quite similar. If you look at there's some constructional schemata posed by Feng Shengli, is that we get this type of structure where subject, bar, object, and verb, and then trace. So the object is proposed to after bar. What they have is object, base, subject, verb, trace. Where the object is proposed to before Bei. The Ba and Bei, they are similar, and then they both entail object proposing, but they also seem to be mirror images. They're symmetrically opposite in the placement of the subject and the object. So if looking at these illustrative examples, if we take into account the Bei as well, we can say 李四把坏蛋给杀了, or 张三被李四给杀了. So Bei, which denotes affectedness, seems to be the common core to both Ba and Bei constructions. The cartographic arrangement, which we saw on the previous slide, is Bei Ba Gei, passive, active, and affect above the lexical verb phrase. These light verb pairs introduce these three arguments, respectively: the affectee, the agent, and the passive YZ. And the voice applicatives in the Chinese, the derivational structure is that they seem to reintroduce core arguments of the lexical verb phrase in their specifiers. So in the bottom up derivation, it's above the verb phrase. We get A, which denotes affectedness, and its specifier holds the affectee, which is the object, to re-merge into its specifier. And we have the subject, the agent, re-merge in the specifier of and above that, we've got A, which remerges the passive by Z. So the object, again, is to remerge in a specifier. And we get this type of derivational structure. Thank you very much.